come here burdened, do you not? You feel it before you even speak. The silent language of the soul screams louder than any mouth ever could. And I see you, each of you, carrying a grief that was never yours to bear, a longing to save others as a means of surviving yourself. But let me ask you a question, dangereuse question, perhaps even a forbidden one in your inner cathedral of morality. Why do you find it easier to rescue others than to receive love yourself? This is not a flaw. It is a pattern. It is a shadow in disguise, cloaked in the virtue of selflessness. But behind the mask of compassion, there often lies an unconscious defense, the refusal to be vulnerable, to receive love, to accept care, is to surrender, to trust that someone sees your wounds and will not exploit them. But what if your early psyche was shaped in a world where vulnerability was a liability? Then the only safe route was to become the rescuer, to ensure your value by becoming indispensable to others. Let us not speak only of behavior. That is the surface. We must go beneath into the archetypal underworld where these patterns originate. You were not born merely as a daughter or son of your parents. You were born into the world of symbols. The empath, as you call it today, is not merely a modern term. It is a manifestation of an ancient archetype, the wounded healer. This figure, like Chiron in Greek mythology, suffers their own wound but becomes a healer for others. However, when the wound is not acknowledged, it festers in the unconscious, and the healer becomes trapped in an eternal cycle, giving to others what they themselves cannot accept. You think your giving is love, but what if I told you that sometimes it is fear dressed as virtue? The fear of abandonment, the terror of being unneeded, the petrifying stillness of solitude. So you overextend, you bleed for others, you call it empathy, but it is often an unconscious plea. Please don't leave me. If I'm useful, maybe I'll be safe. My dear soul, this is not love. It is a trauma pattern, embedded deep within your psyche. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility now to see it, to name it, and to transform it. Let me take you deeper. In dreams, I have seen the empath depicted as a house with no locks, no doors, a warm place. Yes, but exposed. Anyone can come in, rest, take what they need, and leave. And the house smiles, even as it crumbles. That house is you, soul, when you do not know how to receive. When you make yourself available to everyone, but do not require reciprocity. You call this strength, but the psyche calls it an imbalance. The unconscious sees it as an open wound. Many of you have internalized a secret bargain. If I make others feel safe, they will not harm me. This, too, is a remnant of the child who had to parent, the child who learned that emotional labor was the currency for attention. You were conditioned to be useful, not cherished, helpful, not held. So now, as an adult, love terrifies you. Real love, not admiration, not gratitude, not validation, but love that simply wishes to pour into you without being earned. You flinch from it. You mistrust it. Because if you did not earn it, it must be a trick. Yes. And so you choose partners, friends, even spiritual teachers who need you more than they see you. You are drawn like a moth to those who are broken, because their brokenness justifies your presence. It makes you feel needed, it makes you feel safe, but safety is not the same as connection. Being needed is not the same as being loved. You must hear this truth, no matter how much your ego resists it. You cannot build intimacy on the foundation of imbalance. You cannot expect to be seen when you are always wearing the mask of the Savior. Let me now introduce you to your shadow. Yes, that feared word. But do not be alarmed. The shadow is not evil. It is merely unknown, repressed, hidden from your conscious self, but ruling your behaviors nonetheless. In the empath's shadow lies deep resentment, a fury for being overlooked, a bitter ache from feeling invisible even while being praised. You are exhausted, but because your identity is built on being the strong one, you don't allow yourself to crumble. This is the tragic irony. You give endlessly, and yet inside you are starving. You cradle others, but ache to be held. You comfort others, but long for someone to see past your smile and say, "You don't have to be strong today." But that requires you to let the mask fall, to admit that you need, that you ache, that you are worthy, even when you are not fixing someone. This, for the empath, is the ultimate fear, to be loved without a reason, because then you can no longer control it. You can no longer measure your worth by how much you give. You must trust that love will stay even when you are silent. Still ordinary. This is the deeper work, the terrifying liberation to unlearn the belief that love must be earned. Let me remind you now of the nature of energy, of psyche, of life. All things flow in balance, give and receive, inhale and exhale, light and dark. When you only give and cannot receive, you rupture the sacred rhythm of your being. You become an ungrounded spirit, floating, untethered, secretly resentful, though you smile. This is why so many empaths burn out. They do not honor their own energetic needs. They reject boundaries because they believe love means access. But love without boundaries is not love. It is enmeshment in dreams. I have seen empaths drowning in oceans that are not theirs, waters filled with the grief of others, the pain of lovers, for the sorrow of family lines. They take it all in, believing that to absorb is to heal. But listen closely. Absorbing someone's pain is not the same as alchemizing it. Taking it on does not transform it. It merely lodges it in your nervous system, your bones, your breath, and one day you collapse and call it depression, but it was not yours to carry in the first place. To receive, you must return to yourself, to your body, to your center. You must grieve the childhood you lost to caretaking. You must rage for the times you were overlooked. You must learn to hold space for your own neediness, your own softness. You must become, for yourself, what you've been to everyone else, and this is not selfishness. It is sacred individuation. I will stop here for a moment, not because the teaching is complete, but because the soul must digest slowly Let what I have spoken settle into you like rain into dry soil. And when you are ready, we shall go deeper. Now that the soil of your psyche has been stirred, let us continue to truly understand why you rescue and not receive. You must journey back not only into your personal history, but into the collective unconscious, the ancestral blueprint where archetypes live and breathe beyond time. In this space, every empath is not merely a person with heightened sensitivity. They are an echo of the archetypal mother, the healer, the martyr, and sometimes the sacrificial lamb. This is crucial. You are not just playing out your story, you are embodying a pattern that predates you. The danger arises when the archetype possesses the ego, when the empath forgets they are human and begins to act as if they are a vessel for everyone else's salvation. Then your life becomes a ritual of self-erasure. You convince yourself that giving is holy, but in truth, you are avoiding the intimacy of being known. Yes, being truly seen is more frightening than giving endlessly, for when you give, you control the narrative, but when you receive, you must surrender. When you receive love, attention, courage, you are naked in front of the divine mirror. And if you carry shame, old, hidden shame, you will resist this vulnerability at all costs. You will hide behind service, behind fixing, behind false humility. Because to stand still and be loved threatens to expose the ancient lie. You've believed that you are not worthy unless you are useful. Let us speak plainly now. There is an addiction in the empath soul not to love, but to transaction, unconscious, of course. But if you trace your relationships carefully, you will find this truth. You feel safest where you are needed, not where you are adored. You feel calm when there is chaos to solve, but restless in genuine intimacy. Why? Because when you rescue, you are in control. When you receive, you are exposed. This is the wound of the overdeveloped anima or animus, when one side of your psychic energy becomes inflated and you begin to live in imbalance. The empath often carries a hyper-developed anima, the nurturing, emotional, feeling-based principle, while suppressing the animus, which governs boundaries, assertion, and identity. Without balance, you become a psychic sponge, absorbing but never asserting. You mistake surrender for sacrifice. You mistake connection for entanglement. But listen, to be whole, you must integrate both. You must become the healer who also claims space, the lover who also protects their heart, the giver who can say, no, this is not betrayal of your essence, it is the fulfillment of it. Let me share with you a vision that visited me once in a dream. I saw a woman walking through a burning forest. Around her neck was a chain of keys. And every time someone cried, she unlocked a door in their chest and took in their sorrow. She thought herself holy, but soon her own chest was crowded with keys that did not belong to her. She tried to breathe, but the air was thick with ash. She knelt, trembling, and a voice whispered, "You were not sent to carry their keys. You were sent to teach them how to hold their own. That woman is you. That voice is your future self. When you do not receive, when you cannot ask for help, when you silence your own pain to soothe another, you are not practicing love. You are practicing martyrdom. And the martyr unconsciously always hopes someone will finally notice their suffering and rescue them in return. But no one comes because you have taught the world I do not need. I only give. To change this pattern, you must grieve. Yes, grief is the gatekeeper of transformation. You must weep for the years you were silent, for the times you swallowed your truth, for the roles you played to earn love that should have been yours by birthright. Grief is not weakness. It is alchemy. Through it, the empath begins to shed their false sainthood and reclaim their humanity. You must also confront the part of you that is terrified of boundaries. Many empaths feel guilt when they say no, as if they have committed a crime against love itself. But that guilt is not your soul speaking. It is your programming. It is the echo of an earlier time when your value was tethered to compliance, when saying no meant rejection or punishment. But in truth, boundaries are not walls. They are thresholds. They are sacred portals through which only those who honor you may pass. To create a boundary is not to reject the other. It is to honor yourself. And until you do this, your empathy will remain distorted. You will give not from love, but from compulsion, not from abundance, but from fear. Let us turn now to the unconscious motivations that drive your rescuing. Often, what you call love is a disguised attempt to rewrite the past. You are not just helping this friend, this lover, this stranger. You are trying to redeem the original wound. The mother who ignored you, the father who abandoned you, the friend who betrayed you. You are hoping that by saving this person, you will finally heal the part of you that was never saved. But this is an illusion. No amount of rescuing others can substitute for the healing of your inner child. That part of you, the small one, the silent one, still waits for you. And she does not want you to fix others. She wants you to turn around, look her in the eyes, and say, I see you. I will not leave you again. This is the work to withdraw the projection of your pain from others and reclaim it as your own. To stop using others as mirrors for the wound you refuse to see. This is the sacred act of individuation, the return to self. And let us not forget the energetic toll of your pattern. The empath who cannot receive becomes like a leaking vessel, always empty, always seeking, never full. You say you are tired, but it is not physical exhaustion. It is soul depletion. You are not meant to be a well for others while your own spring dries up. You are not meant to be the priestess for every lost soul while you wither in silence. Healing begins. When you remember this, you are worthy of love even when you are not helping. Sit with that. Let it shatter the illusions. Let it dismantle the identity you built around usefulness. Let it burn the mask of the Savior so that the true self can emerge. You were never meant to be the answer to everyone's suffering. You were meant to be whole, and that wholeness includes your tears, your needs, your shadows, your anger, your joy, your contradictions. To receive is not to take. It is to allow the universe to pour into you. And in that sacred exchange, giving and receiving become one, an eternal breath of the soul. We are not finished. But pause now. Feel what is stirring in you. Then we shall continue the descent. Let us descend further into the marrow of the mystery. You who live in the body of an empath have often mistaken the role of the receiver for weakness. But that belief is not your truth. It is a scar, woven from early betrayals. Somewhere in your formative years, you concluded that needing others would lead to pain. Perhaps you reached for someone and found only absence. Perhaps you cried and were shamed. Perhaps your joys were too loud or your needs too inconvenient. Whatever the source, the lesson was internalized with brutal clarity. It is safer to give than to ask. And so you grew. You adorned yourself with empathy like a suit of armor, not realizing that beneath it, your truest self was suffocating. You listened to everyone else's stories, but silenced your own. You comforted others through storms. Yet no one knew when it was raining inside you. You became fluent in everyone else's emotions, but illiterate in your own. This is not empathy. This is exile. The soul was not designed to live in one direction only. When we suppress the act of receiving, we close the gate to intimacy, not only with others, but with the divine. For what is God, if not the ultimate giver? And how can you know God? If you cannot receive, you may pray, you may serve, you may offer yourself to the sacred flame, but if you recoil when it wishes to touch you, then you have built your sanctuary on self-denial. Receiving is not indulgence. It is participation in the sacred. The empath who cannot receive is like the cup that turns upside down at the fountain. Water is flowing, grace is offered, but nothing enters. And then you wonder why you are thirsty. Let me offer another image from the dream world. A man stands on a cliff, holding a lantern for travelers below. For years, he has burned his flame to guide others. One day, he looks down and finds he has turned to stone, immovable. Weathered by wind and solitude, the light is still burning, but he no longer remembers why. When asked, he replies, "So others do not feel what I felt, but who holds the lantern for him?" You see, your rescuing may not stem from altruism alone. Often, it is guilt that drives you, the guilt of having survived what others did not. The guilt of knowing pain intimately and wishing to shield the world from it. But guilt is not a compass. It is a weight, and when it governs your empathy, your help becomes a form of penance. You do not give because you are full. You give because you feel you must atone. And herein lies a hidden danger. Your compassion becomes compulsive. You offer support, not out of joy, but out of obligation. And then you resent those you help, not because they take too much, but because you gave from an empty well. And yet you blame yourself for the resentment. You say, "I should be more loving," instead of asking, "Why do I not feel safe to receive?" This is how the empath becomes a martyr, not by design, but by default. But now, I invite you to see through new eyes. Consider that receiving is not about being passive. It is about trusting that you are safe enough to be vulnerable, that you are loved without performance, that you are not only a healer but a human being. To embrace this truth, however, You must descend into the underworld of your psyche, the place where your ego refuses to go, the place where your inner child still waits, clutching memories of emotional starvation. She does not need you to rescue others. She needs you to rescue her. Not by becoming a better empath, not by sacrificing your needs, but by turning inward and saying, with conviction, I see you, I choose you, even when no one else does. I will never leave you again. This act of reparenting your wounded self is the alchemical beginning of transformation. Only from this place can you begin to receive without shame, to allow someone's love into your cracks without fear they will exploit them, to let care in, not as proof that you are good, but as evidence that you are human. Now, you may ask, what does this mean practically? How do I learn to receive? It begins in the smallest of moments. When someone compliments you, do not deflect, say thank you, and let it land. When someone offers help, do not decline by habit. Pause, feel the discomfort, and say yes. When you feel lonely, do not numb it with service. Instead, allow the ache to speak. What does it need? Often, it simply asks, will you listen to me for once? You will feel guilt at first. Of course, the old programming will hiss, you are selfish, but know this. Every act of receiving is an act of rebalancing. You are not taking from others, you are restoring the sacred current between souls. Giving and receiving are not opposites. They are lovers. One cannot exist without the other. If you only give, you rob others of the joy of giving to you. If you only rescue, you deny others the dignity of their own strength. If you only love, but never let love touch you, you live in half-light. Let us remember the self, not the ego, but the archetypal wholeness at your center. The self contains all light and shadow, masculine and feminine, strength and need. When you live from the self, you no longer seek identity in roles. You do not need to be the empath. You simply are, and from this beingness, love flows both ways, naturally, without distortion. So the final warning is this: if you do not learn to receive, your giving will poison you. It will become your identity, your prison. And one day you will look around and see a life filled with people you have helped, but no one who truly knows you, because you never let them. You built bridges for others, but never crossed one yourself. You listened to thousands of stories, but silenced your own. You were the light for many, but lived in the dark. This is not your destiny. This is your invitation to step down from the pedestal, to be held, to be known, to let the sacred river of love wash over you for once, to become, at last, not just the healer, but the healed. And we are not done yet. One final descent remains. Now we enter the final chamber of this sacred descent, the moment of choice. You are no longer ignorant. The veil has been lifted. You have seen the shadow behind your selflessness, the ache beneath your smile, the exhaustion behind your offering, and you have seen the wounded child who orchestrates it all quietly, subtly, from the depths of your unconscious. So what now? Do you continue to build your identity upon the crumbling foundation of being the rescuer, or do you choose a new path, one far more dangerous, yet far more real, the path of mutuality, of reciprocity, of allowing yourself to matter? You must understand, this is not merely a psychological evolution, it is a spiritual metamorphosis. Because the soul cannot flourish in systems of imbalance, it cannot sing in relationships where you are the perpetual giver, it cannot expand in lives where receiving is taboo, it will slowly close its wings, curl into itself, and begin to die not in one great collapse, but in 1,000 silent denials. This is the quiet tragedy of the unconscious empath, a death not of body, but of soul. But there is still time. There is always time if you are willing to return to your sacred center and listen. The self has never abandoned you. The divine within you has not wavered. It whispers even now, you are not a tool for others' healing. You are a living temple of sacred reciprocity. You deserve to be touched, to be known, to be adored. Not for what you do, but for what you are. Let us invoke one final symbol before we rise. In many dreams, when the soul is ready to receive, a symbol appears. The open hands, they are trembling, hesitant, vulnerable, but open, no longer clenched in fear, no longer holding the burdens of others, just open, waiting. Ready? These hands do not reach to grab or to give, they wait for what is meant for grace, for love, for return. And when this symbol arises, the psyche shifts. A new language begins to form within the soul, a new balance, a new humility, not the humility of shrinking, but the humility of truth, the truth that we are all both healer and wounded, both strong and fragile, both lovers and longers, and that we were never meant to be only one thing. Let this be the moment you take off the mask. Let this be the day you stop apologizing for your needs. Let this be the hour you say, without shame, I, too, am worthy of care. You must understand, receiving is not about transaction. It is about communion. It is about letting love in without needing to barter your soul for it. It is about laying down your armor, letting someone see the part of you that does not have it all together, and trusting that they will not run. And if they do, let them, for their departure is not your failure, it is your liberation. Those who cannot hold your truth are not your home. You were not born to be understood only in your usefulness. You were born to be known. To receive is to rest in the truth, that love is not earned, it is offered. And all you must do is let it in. So now, I ask you, can you sit in stillness and let someone love you? Can you allow someone's arms to become your refuge? Without the urge to perform, can you cry and not apologize? Can you ask and not flinch? Can you receive and not retreat? These are not soft questions. They are initiations. And to the empath who has lived a life of overgiving, they are terrifying, because they dismantle the identity you've built to survive. But that identity was a cocoon, and it is time to break free. The world does not need more martyrs. It needs souls who are whole, empaths who receive, healers who rest, givers who are cherished. And you, my beloved wanderer of the heart, are invited into that wholeness. You may still feel resistance. That is natural. But beneath that resistance, something stirs. A yes, a kid yes. And that yes is the beginning. So close your eyes now, breathe deep, feel the part of you that still believes you are unworthy. Hold them close and whisper, I am enough, even when I do not save anyone. Let that become your new prayer. Not because you have forsaken your empathy, but because you have finally chosen to include yourself in its embrace. And with that choice, you are no longer just the empath. You are the redeemed. You are the beloved. You are, at last, home.